Okay, so we finally added our very first employee. So is it necessary for you to keep adding all your employees there? No, you can do it in the employee center, and that one's going to be so much more easier. Okay. Now, if you want to, you can add all of your employees in this window here, but again, it's not necessary. But I just wanted to show you what information you needed to have in order to successfully fill out an employee information to add an employee into your list here. But in this case, no, it's not necessary for you to add all your employees there. I'm going to show you a quicker way and what you can do to quickly add your employees into the employee center after. It's going to be the last section of this chapter. But in this case, we completed 2 sections already, right? We completed the company section, the company setup. We completed the employee setup. Now we're going to be moving on to setting up our taxes, okay? So here we are. We're going to be setting up our taxes next. Okay, here you go. You get this message right here, how to set up your taxes, and we're going to click continue. So these are all the taxes that you're obligated and subject to have to pay for the federal. Okay, so you got federal tax and withholdings. You got the Social Security, Medicare, and Social Security, and then the CARES if you have it or not. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and click continue. These are the state taxes that you have to also subject to pay, because in this case, right, how do I know I have to pay into California tax? Well, the first thing that we had to do was enter in our address, okay? Now, is it a requirement to have an address? Absolutely not, okay? But again, if you are an actual legitimate business, you should have some kind of location, whether you use your house to do your online business or something like that, or you actually have an actual store location, then you're going to put that address down. Now, in this case, because you put in the state that you're doing business in, it's going to automatically recognize that you are subject to have to pay California tax, because that's the state that you are doing business in. All right, so again, QuickBooks recognizes all the information that you enter into QuickBooks, and it pulls all the information for you automatically. So in this case, we're looking at our very first California EDD payment, okay? How do we do this one? So in this case, when we're looking at the EDD, we are going to be looking at modifying each and every single one. So again, we already went over the federal, so here we're going to go over the state, okay? So California EDD, okay? We're going to be using, in this case, we have the number set up here. Now, what is the entered in the amount? So this is the amount of the EDD that you're going to be setting up, which is going to be the California, in this case, it's California Disability, I believe, EDD. All right, so what is the percentage based on this one? So in this case, it's going to be 3.4%. Okay, 3.4%. And then I can go ahead and click finish. Now again, it's going to open up the next one, next couple ones. So we're going to go ahead and edit each and every single one. So in this case, how are you going to make a payment for the California Disability? Once again, it's a payroll liability, okay? In this case, what does it belong to? Which is going to be whatever. It's going to be company payroll taxes, okay? Next. Now, who are you going to make a payment to? Again, this is 1%, so we already did the EDD already. Okay, so let's see what the next one is. Okay. So this is California unemployment. So let me go ahead and click next. Actually, exit out of this. So once we set up that one, the 3.4%, we can go ahead and click continue. So this is the section I'm talking about. So in this case, we have a whole bunch of things that we need to set up in regards to the state and federal. So in this case, how are we going to pay our federal? Okay, well, in this case, when we do our federal taxes, we're going to be issuing it to the EFTPS. What does that even mean? Okay, the EFTPS, okay, is going to be the federal, the electronic federal tax, the electronic federal tax payroll system, payment system. Okay, it's very difficult for this one, but again, that's what this is. So again, the easiest form of way to be able to, again, go through and send your money in here is, again, to do it electronically, because that is going to be the federal tax payment system. Because, again, it's the easiest way to transfer the money from one account to another, right? And again, especially when you have large major corporations such as Walmart, right, who have billions of employees. So they can collect billions of dollars in taxes instantly by using the EFTPS, okay, the electronic federal tax payment system, okay? So once again, it's the easiest and quickest way to get money transferred from the account to another account. Now again, of course, you make sure if you are using this, you have to set up the account because QuickBooks, once again, can do it for you, you know, by you issuing in the transfers. But again, you have to go onto the federal website to be able to do that. Okay. So there you go. How often do I pay? In this case, you have the option either quarterly or annually. In this case, let's keep it simple. Let's just make all of our payments all on one setting, so then you don't have to remember when is this due, when is that due, and when is that due. So in this case, I'm going to select quarterly, and I'm going to click next. So now the next one is going to be another one, which is going to be for the set up the payment scheduling. Okay, so in this case, for the federal 941. So once again, they also are going to go through the EFTPS. Okay. All right. What is their account number? Or I think this is the EDD. Let me see. For federal 941 and 941, you're going to be the EFTPS, and you're going to do quarterly payments. Okay, so in this case, no social security or no number here necessary, and you're going to make quarterly payments. Okay, next. This is where once you get to the California, they're going to be the EDD, and their number here is going to be, the EDD is going to be 123-45678. That's the account number that you're going to be transferring to. And again, you're going to make them quarterly payments. So make sure it's just much easier, especially when you're running your business, right? And you have so many aspects to your business, right? You have to make sure if sales is okay. You have to make sure your purchase is okay. You have many, compartments when it comes to a business. So making sure that you keep track of your liabilities is not going to be your top priority, right? You can, especially when you have 4, 5, 6, 7 different payments to the government, right? One to the federal, one to the state, maybe even one to the local agency. You want to make it something so then it's all, you pay them all at once. So then that way you don't forget one, okay? And there you go. We're going to make them quarterly payments, and I'm going to click next. Okay, last one is another EDD. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And they are going to be a quarterly payment. All right, finish. So again, I set up all 4 of them. Anything that's federal is going to be the EFTPS, which is the Electronic Federal Tax Payment System. And then for all California, it's going to be the EDD. Okay. So now that I set them up and I said that I'm going to make quarterly payments for all 4 taxes that I'm going to be paying to, right? I'm going to be paying into the federal and the California. Okay, so now I can go ahead and click continue. All right, so now that I finished my taxes, last part I have in this section is going to be year to date information. Now in this case, this is going to be if you are a already existing company, right? And you have all of your tax information already. So let's say I'm processing this in the month of June, right? And I haven't been using QuickBooks until now, right? But my company already started, right? And it's already paid its employees since the beginning of the year. What you're going to do with that information is you're going to, again, get a trial balance or some kind of record of all of the employee taxes. So whether you collected and paid and so on and so forth, you need to collect all that information because at the end of the day, what you're going to do is you're going to plug it into this year-to-date information, okay? Now, in this case, this example for this class, we're assuming that we're starting our company fresh. I said this is our first time we are using QuickBooks, and we're beginning in the beginning of the year. So if you remember when we set up the file, right, we said that we started as of December 31st of the previous fiscal year, meaning I'm starting from January 1st. Okay, so in this case, right, my assumption is I don't have year-to-date information. So what I can do with that is I can go ahead and skip this section, and then I can go ahead and move on. So once I click continue and I say, let me see if there's no year-to-date information, so I click next. So do you have year-to-date information? I say no. And then I can go ahead and click continue. Okay. So once I have that, then I get to this very last window that says you are complete. And now I'm going to go to my payroll center. Now in this case, the payroll center does not exist. Okay, so this is the employee center. All right, so here I have my 1 employee and my 1 employee only. And again, you're not obligated to have to enter in all your employees in that one section or that one window of the interview. You can just simply add a new employee at any given time right here at the top of the employee center. Okay, so let's take a look at my payroll items once again, because this time after completing the interview, let's see what happened to my payroll items list. Boom. When I first saw it, I only had, 5 accounts and 5 items in here? Now, because I went through the process through the interview, I set up my benefit items. I set up my health insurance items. I set up all of my items accordingly. And there you go. That is my whole entire list right here of the payroll items that I created through the interview. Okay? Now, for any reason that, let's say, again, you go through on your business and you decide to, you know what, I can now afford to pay for fringe benefits, okay? For whatever reason that you add or take away, so either when you create more benefits or more deductions, you can just simply add a new payroll item right here in this window, okay? Same as what we've been practicing, right? Every single item, every single account, it's all standard. You're just going to go down to the payroll item, and then you're just going to click new, all right? But once again, I also told you, you can always go back to your payroll. You can always go back to your payroll interview at any given time. Okay. How do you do that? You just go up to employees like before, and you click on payroll interview. Okay, and you can go through that. You can add your items there, or you can deduct some items there. You can always use that as a way of setting up. But if you don't want to go through all of those questions again, because you do have to click next, or you can click on finish, right, at the very bottom, then you don't have to do that. Once again, you can just simply create your item down here by clicking the payroll item or right-clicking anywhere on the item list and clicking new. Okay, so in your book, there's an example that you could do to create a new item. Again, it's pretty straightforward on what kind of item that you're creating. Are you creating, you want to do the easy step or you want to do a customizable one? Just use the easy step because it will do it for you or make it much more easier for you. So I selected the easy step and now it says payroll item type. Well, what is it? Are you doing a compensation? Are you doing an insurance? Are you doing a retirement benefit? Are you doing in a paid time off? So what if you did paid time off, right? What if you said, now I offer sick pay for my salary workers? Okay, so I can go ahead and do that. Or let's say I have workers' compensation. If I have workers' compensation, it's going to be an other deduction or an other addition. Okay, so again, it's a company contribution, not an employee deduction. Yes. You had a question?
No, I just told you I will go.
Oh,
Thank you. Bye.
all right, bye. All right, so then here, let's do it a quick example. So let's do paid time off, and I'm going to click next. Right, so now it's going to give me to this window, and it's going to help me set it up. So again, it takes you back to this window, or it could actually take you to another window. So in this case, here you go. It takes me to this window, and it says, hey, you want to do paid time off. What do you want to do? Let's do sick pay, okay? And I'm going to click next. All right, and then next. Okay, and there you go. I created my sick pay. Right, now that I created my sick pay, I can now go ahead and double click on it to actually set up my sick pay. So where is it? Hourly sick. So in this case, it's not, I don't have this, so you can delete this. Okay. Delete payroll item, okay, but I do have salary sick, okay, and of course you can go ahead and edit the information here. You can retitle it, right? You can set up what accounts you're going to be using for it, and so on and so forth, okay, so straightforward. So in this case, it's going to be a payroll expense, but in this case, I'm going to call this payroll expense gross wages, because that's what you do, right? You're earning the income based on being sick. And I click finish. Okay, straightforward. All right, so again, you can set up your payroll items by simply going down below here instead of having to go through the interview and setting it up that way. But again, the interview makes it a lot more easier. Okay, all right, so that's that right there. Okay. So last section, or last couple of sections here, I have, I can create employee defaults. Okay. I can create employee defaults. Okay, so let's talk about that real quick. What are employee defaults? Well, as I've mentioned before, when we talk about adding our employees, what is an easy and quicker way to do it? Well, again, you're going to have to manually go ahead and click on new employee, and it's going to look very similar for adding a customer or adding a vendor, right? You're still going to get the same, you're going to get similar questions, okay? But again, in context, you guys have to just set it up. Now, check out this section right here where we're talking about the payroll items. Okay, so in this case, you're going to select, well, what kind of payroll, how are you going to pay them? What's their pay frequency? What's your pay schedule? what is going to be the items that you can have. In this case, instead of having to do it for every single individual that you enter in here, there is a little easier and quicker way to be able to enter all that information without having to enter it in. And we're going to call that employee defaults. So set up employee defaults, okay? So now it's going to say, well, in this case, if I'm going to be using employee defaults, what am I going to have on them? So this is where when you're setting up a group of employees, right? Let's say I'm going to set up my hourly wage individuals or my salary individuals, okay? Whichever one you want to choose. So in this case, if I am going to choose that, I'm going to say, well, what do they earn from me? In this case, let's do our salary, okay? Because they have more information. So in this case, salary regular, okay? What other additions can they get? They can get salary sick, and they can also get salary, salary vacation as well, okay? So that's what I want to set up here. Now, anything else I want to set up? What about a payroll schedule? What is a payroll schedule? So in this case, a payroll schedule is going to be, when are you going to pay your employees? And this because this person is going to be on a semi-monthly, right? That means they're going to get paid on the 16th and they're going to get paid on the very last day of the month. So in this case, that's exactly what you do. You're going to set up the exact dates that they are going to be making payments for, or they're going to be receiving payments for. So in this case, tell us how you'll be proceeding payroll using QuickBooks Desktop. So there you go. We already got that. Okay. When do you want to name this payroll schedule? In this case, we're going to name this semi-monthly. Okay. Semi-monthly is what you're going to do. All right. How often will you be paying your employees? Again, semi-monthly. Okay. And then what are the time frames is what you're going to say here. So in this case, payroll check date, okay, for this month. All right? So you're going to pay them on every 16, okay? And again, for the pay period ending on, well, what's the pay period going to end on? It's going to end on the 15th, okay? And then for the second paycheck, when are you going to issue the date of that is going to be last day of the month for the payroll period ending on last day of the month. Okay? And of course, now it says next paycheck date is. So if I'm setting this up as of today, well, let's see. I should be let me see what it says. My next check date is going to be, well, we already passed the 16th, so that means the next one's going to be the 28th. Okay? And then it says for the next pay period end date on, when is the pay period end date? I'm going to say the 28th. Okay? Or it should be the day before. Actually, so in this case, you would probably have to make this the following day. But usually it should be at the end of the month. Okay? And okay, and then I click okay. So now I created a pay schedule. So that means every time I set up my individuals who are salary based, right? They are all going to be on the same pay schedule. That means they're all going to get paid on the 16th of February and the 28th of February. In this case, 16th of February already passed. So in this case, they're going to get paid on the 28th, which is the next one. Okay. Again, what is the pay frequency, right? It's already assumed, right? That it's going to be semi-monthly. Okay. And then what class do they belong to? Does it matter what class they belong to, because they could work for both locations. Maybe they work for one location, right? Maybe you want to put in all your employees for this location and then the other employees for that location, okay? Now, what are the items that they can be receiving as part of deductions and so on and so forth? Well, what do we offer? We offer Medicare, right? Medical insurance. We offer 401k plans, right? So they can have a 401k deduction and 401k match. Okay? No, I put deduction twice. 401k match. Okay? And of course, we can even set up their sick and vacation pay. So again, how many hours can they have at the beginning of the year? What is the number of hours that they can claim? So in this case, I'm going to skip the sick, but I am going to go ahead and fill in the vacation. So the beginning of the year is when I am going to set them up. Okay, how many hours, okay, can be accrued at the beginning of the year? They haven't accrued any. Maximum number of hours. They can have, what was it, 80 hours per year. Reset hours each new year. Yes. Okay. Sick and vacation pay. Sick and vacation hours paid. Okay. So in this case, do not accrue employee sick and vacation hours for, okay, sick and vacation hours paid and overtime. Well, we don't offer overtime, so in this case, that doesn't make sense. So I set my employee defaults, and what I can do is say I'm going to click OK. So that means the next time I put in a new employee, right? Of course, every section is going to be different, right? Because in this case, employee names are going to be different, all right? Their information is going to be different. However, their payroll information is going to be automatically filled in for you and set up automatically, okay? So in this case, this is going to save you some time instead of having to enter all of these benefits and all of these deductions one at a time, right? And of course, you're not obligated to be restricted to this. So if this employee, you allow them to have commissions, then say this person also gets commissions. Okay, you can add to your defaults. Well, in this case, this is our when you add your new employee, you can make changes to it at any given time. Okay. Now here's a good thing about this as well, is that when you do set employee defaults, you can always modify your employee defaults for the next group of individuals. So in this case, let's say I entered in all of my salary-based earning individuals, right? So now I'm going to enter in all my hourly wage workers. So in this case, what I can do is I can make changes to this and say, well, they're salary, so they're hourly now. So therefore, I'm going to make changes saying that they can do hourly. They're not going to get any sick pay, and they're not going to get any vacation pay. So in this case, there you go. Okay. When do you pay your workers? In this case, I need to create a new schedule because what if I want to pay my wage workers every other week? So in this case, they're going to be bi-weekly. Okay, and what am I going to name this one? Bi-weekly. Okay, and again, how do I, what is the pay period date? When is the pay period end date? So in this case, let's take a look. So in this case, my pay period end date is going to be on the 20th. Okay, and when is going to be the date that you actually should appear on the paycheck? It should be on Friday. We pay on Fridays. Okay, and then I can go ahead and click OK. So we click OK. So then now I have the pay schedule that I'm going to pay my hourly workers every 2 weeks. Okay. And of course, that means if I have my salary workers and I have my bi-weekly workers, QuickBooks is going to recognize that. So then when a payment that you need to pay for your employees comes up, then it's simple, right? You pay, and we'll talk about that in chapter 11. How do you set those payroll schedules and pay your employees, right? So in this case, do we offer Medicare, 401k? Yes, we do. okay? But again, we don't have vacation or sick pay for our regular workers. So then I click OK. So then now, the next time I add a new employee, it's going to save those changes, and now they're hourly workers, okay? So that is what's really cool. So I did not take that off. I couldn't find it. So there you go. So again, I'm going to say, no, I don't want salary vacation. They don't get it. They only get, they're only getting paid hourly, and they're going to get paid every 2 weeks. So that's a great thing about having employee defaults, is it makes it that much quicker for you to enter in your employees a lot quicker, okay, by saving you time on setting up their payroll, okay? So that's the employee defaults right there, okay? Any questions there?
No.
Okay. Oh, I seem to have lost my paper. All right, so then the next section in your book talks about how to edit, how to delete, and so on and so forth for your payroll items. Here you go. So in this case, right, it's the same thing, right? If you plan to add or make any changes to your payroll items, straightforward, just go to your payroll items and either edit the information, add it, or delete it, okay? So that's editing payroll items, okay? Other than that, let's see what's next. Now, what happens when you have an employee release date? Let's say you let go your employees, right? How do you make QuickBooks recognize that? Well, that's pretty straightforward, right? If you decide to let go or fire your employee, this is what you must do. You must go to the actual individual person's profile, right? And you're going to fill in this section right here where you have the release information, okay? Okay. Actually, should be in additional information. No, you were right. Employment information. Yes, so then here you need to go ahead and put in their release information. Okay, so if you let them go, what is the reason why you let them go? All right, and why? Hold on, I don't see it here. Release. Oh, right here, release date. It is important that you put the release date, so then it lets QuickBooks know to take them off the payroll system, okay? It does not benefit or do much if you just inactivate the employee, because what happens if you inactivate the employee, they're still going to show up on the payroll. It is very important that you do go here, go to employment information, and set their employment release date, okay? Because if, again, like I mentioned, right, if you don't, they're still going to show up on your list to pay them, and you don't want to pay somebody that isn't working at your company anymore, okay? So again, for any reason that you have to terminate your employee, you have to do more than just inactivate them. You have to set the release date so they no longer show up on, and QuickBooks can recognize that they're no longer going to be on the payroll system. So that's that right there. Again, how do I inactivate my employees? Straightforward, right? Same thing as for anything, right? You can choose to make employee inactive, okay? Or once again, when you're on their profile, every single profile has this button right here down below that say employee is inactive, okay? Now that's just if they're on temporary leave, okay? Or for any situation, maybe they are on medical leave, right? You can temporarily put them inactive for the time being. Okay. Okay, but of course, how do I view that? Again, you would change the settings up here because you can either view all or you can view active ones. Okay, so that's that right there. Okay. Other information is going to be, for this case, we could do some payroll reports. So as mentioned as before, right? We won't talk too much about payroll reports just because, again, we haven't dived into making payments to our employees or anything other than that. So the most for this chapter is just looking at employee reports. So maybe making a list of all your employees, so employees in payroll. So again, you could do a employee contact list, right? We'll talk about the payment for the liabilities and the actual payroll list, right, of the items and stuff like that. We'll talk about that more in depth in next week for Tuesday. Okay. But for this case, they did teach you to do how to do the employee contact information. In this case, I only have one employee. I only have Katie. But if for any reason you have like a lot of employees, yes, you can create an employee contact list. Okay, for any reason that you need to send a mass email to your employees or something, and so on and so forth. Okay. And then let's talk about payroll services. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, right, on Tuesday, since we set up the payroll items, right, and we linked them to the payroll accounts, okay, in this, there are two ways that you can enter in payroll, and we're going to talk more in depth about this in chapter 11, right? Number one is going to be the different payroll services, or number two is you're going to do a manual payroll system. Now, if you do decide to go ahead and do a payroll system, like you pay a service, right? If I go ahead and click on payroll service options, right, I have the option to learn about the payroll options. Okay, if I click on that, it should give me a website that gives me the rundown on the 3 different types of services that are available through the Intuit. Right, so here it is. You have basic, which is going to be the most simplest one. You have enhanced and you have assisted, okay? So again, these are the 3 different payroll services. As you can see right now, if I do enhanced, it's going to be $50 per month. And if I do the assisted, which is the highest one, which is $109 per month. So again, each and every single type of payroll service is going to provide, basic information, or, for example, each package is going to be helping you file your taxes, as well as processing the paychecks itself, as well as helping you pay your liabilities. Now, as we go through each and every single one, it does get to the point where the more expensive, so the more employees that you have is going to be one of the reasons why you would choose one or the other type of service, okay? So again, if you have minimal amount of employees, it's not worth it to pay for the most expensive one. You'd be fine with basic. The only thing is that in chapter 11, I'll go ahead and give a little rundown on each and every single one. But each one, right, it is much easier to just pay someone to do payroll for you, right? You don't have to necessarily go through Intuit, okay? Because Intuit, you can create it right in your QuickBooks right away. And of course, again, it's a monthly subscription. It's not You can pay for a whole year if you need to. But in this case, yes. If you need to pay for a whole year subscription, you can do that. You just have to go through the Intuit website itself. But it is a monthly subscription for now. And again, they all range in price points. And again, it is based on, usually on, number one is how many employees that you have. If you have less employees, then you shouldn't go for the most expensive one. However, if you have 1 billion employees, or close to 100,000 employees, then the assisted would be the best option for you, right? Because instead of you having to manually enter in every single paycheck for every single individual that works for your company, because remember, each and every single one of them is all going to have a separate W-4 form. So then if that's the case, right, we'll show you an example, the difference between using a payroll service and an actual manual service, okay, and how it affects payroll accordingly, okay. But yes, it's just much easier to just pay somebody to do payroll for you. Now, in this case, are you obligated to have to use Intuit? Absolutely not. You can outsource your this type of service to a third-party vendor, right? If you contract with a person who does payroll for you. So most banks actually have this service that you can go for, because again, it comes directly out of your banking account. So your banking institute is going to have a payroll service option available for you that they can do, and they actually hire real tax payroll service, like people who are in the profession of that, to help you pay your employees, but they also help you manage your payments for the liabilities, and they even help you process the taxes for you, so you can file your W-2 forms to them, and then they can provide you the W-2 forms for you to provide to your employees. Okay, so on and so forth. So again, if it's unnecessary, you can be fine with just doing a manual payroll, but we'll talk about that on Tuesday, because it does take a lot of effort for one individual. Okay? Any questions in regards to chapter 10?
No.
Oh, I went backwards. So I'll just fast forward this. All right, so if there's no questions, let's go ahead and go over the multiple choice. So you need to just select the best answer for each of the following. So number 1, okay, an easy and convenient way to process payroll in QuickBooks, okay, for employees on a different payroll schedule would be to use what?
B.
Let's take a look at B. Use the payroll schedule function in QuickBooks. Good, correct. Number 2, okay. Which of the following payroll periods is not an option in QuickBooks?
D.
D as in dog?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, because again, you can make quarter payments. That's like probably the most extensive form of payment that you could pay. Again, common one is bi-weekly. I already gave you an example of a daily one, right? Uber can do daily. But in this case, can you pay every 6 months? That's kind of, that's kind of an option that's kind of far out there. Why would you pay your employees every 6 months? Okay, so in this case, no, you can't do that. Number 3, which payroll item cannot be created in payroll setup interview?
D.
D, they all can be created. Yes, all you have to do is just be patient, know what kind of item you're trying to create, and create it. Right? Straightforward. Number 4, okay, which is not an option when setting the accrual period for sick and vacation pay. So this one you had to really read your book, but in this case, you had to really pay attention to the lecture. So in this case, this was the option when we set up the sick and vacation pay. What was the option? What was not an option?
Is it B?
Every oh,
Yes, in this case, yes, it is. It is B. Yeah, you don't have the option to pay to um to accrue every month. Okay. For sick and vacation pay, right? You can do it for the beginning of the year. Usually, that's what a lot of companies do is that they accrue it during the beginning of the year, or they refresh it every year. Okay, every paycheck. Yes, that is an option. Surprisingly, yes, you can, especially if they're hourly workers, right? If they're going to be paid by the hour, then yes, every paycheck would make sense. Okay. And of course, every hour of every paycheck, again, if they are on a hourly wage, and yeah, in this case, yeah, you can. You could say, well, maybe they skipped out 5 hours. They called in sick for 5 hours. Okay. Yes, it can be every hour on the paycheck. Number 5. Okay. The payroll setup interview, okay, will not allow you to
D.
D is correct, right? In this case, it's not just only employees, it could be vendors, it could be customers. You cannot have someone who has the same name and enter it in. QuickBooks, even though you enter in things like Social Security, obviously, maybe John S. Smith and John H. Smith have different Social Securities. It will not recognize that. It only recognizes the title or the name that you enter in under a list, okay? So in this case, if you have John H. Smith and John S. Smith, that's perfect because you could use their middle initial. They give you the option to add a middle initial. But what if they're both the same name? What if they're father and son? Well, great. Then you can use a number or you can use junior and senior, right? You have to make some kind of differentiation between them so then when you do enter that into QuickBooks, you can easily recognize them as well, right? But in this case, QuickBooks will not let you enter in an employee with the same exact name. Reason being is because again, it's like database entry, right? If you put in QuickBooks or two identical names in there, it's not going to tell you who's who, or it's not going to tell you the difference between the two, right? So that's the idea here. And if you do enter in the same exact name, they're going to say, "Hey, are you trying to this person already exists in the books? Are you trying to create a new one, or you want to override it, or you want to merge it?" Okay. So in this case, no, you cannot have the same exact name, right? Number 6, okay, you entered in the federal ID for your company, okay? So what significance or what does that do?
number C, in the company information window.
Yes, okay, or yeah, where do you put this in the, in this case, yes, you would put this in the company information window. Because that, okay, so yeah. Now, what's important with a company federal ID tax number? What's so important about that?
It helps with your taxes. It identifies you.
Correct, right? It identifies you as a company, but it also helps you again because QuickBooks is meant to be a tax program. It helps you file taxes. So a federal tax ID number is going to allow you to identify you as a business, but allows you to keep track of your federal payments, your state payments, whatever it is, right? Because it is more or less like a social security number for a business, right? But the tax ID number is to more or less, help you file taxes, whether it's federal or state. Okay. Number 7, okay, use the payroll description. Okay, so use a payroll description item to track medical insurance cost when.
Is it A?
It is A, when an employee pays a part or all of the cost. So in this case, that's what you would use a payroll deduction, excuse me. So payroll deduction. Because again, deduction is when it involves the employee, right? A benefit is when a company provides for the employee. So make sure you know the difference between a deduction and a benefit. Okay, so in this case, the word deduction should have hinted to you that this is for the employee portion. Okay. Number 8, okay, which of the following would QuickBooks exclude from the taxable earnings when calculating federal withholdings?
D.
Letter D for number 8 is correct. It's going to be employee contributions to 401k, right? Again, that's technically not taxable, okay? And yeah. Number 9, okay? Why are there 2 Medicare and 2 Social Security items in the payroll items list?
C?
Letter C is correct. QuickBooks tracks the employee and the employer's portion separately. Yes.
What is the difference between B and C? I was confused between those two.
B says you use separate accounts because you must write separate checks for employees and employer portions. Is that true?
That's not right. I just realized that
Mm-hmm.
you don't write separate checks with the same check. It's just characterized individually, correct?
Correct, because again, when you do Social Security and Medicare, again, the the Federal Insurance Contribution Act, FICA for short, is when you do work for a company, it is the company's responsibility to also pay into these two, Medicare and Social Security for as a retirement benefit. But it's also the employees responsible to protect themselves for the future as well, to ensure that they're working, that when they do end up retiring, they already put in money into their Social Security and Medicare to provide for them when they're not working, no longer working. So in this case, it is going to be a specific percentage. We won't talk too in depth about this. We'll talk about it in tomorrow's lesson, what the breakdown for Medicare and Social Security is. But in this case, it is a Federal Insurance Contribution Act. Okay, that's a responsibility for both employee and employer. Okay, and no, you do not write 2 separate checks for them because essentially they all go to the same agency. So you can just write one check that involves both, employee and employer's responsibility. Okay, the only thing that we do keep it separate is, well, if my employee paid there, did my company match that? And that's the fine line that you have to make a separation for, is that you have to ensure every time you make a payment for your employee, you have to also assume the responsibility that you're going to put the same exact amount in from the company. The company has to pay as well. Okay? Number 10, which of the following is not a feature in QuickBooks standard payroll services? So in this case, I don't know why they talk about services now, because services is going to be for chapter 11, but I believe in your reading they do talk about it very briefly in this chapter 10, or this, yeah, question number 10. Okay, which of the following is not a feature in the QuickBooks standard payroll services?
B.
A?
Okay, we got A, B, and we got someone who said C. Okay, let's go over the answers and let's see which one it is. So in this case, this is question number 10. Okay, question number 10. All right, let's take a look at A. It tracks individual employees for hours worked and gross pay. Now, is that a feature that is in the standard payroll system? Yes, because we have the enter times feature, right? That is a means of tracking individual employees. So in this case, the question is which one is not. So A is for surely A feature. All right, B says writes and prints paychecks on standard checks. In this case, we'll talk about how to print our paychecks, and yes, that is a feature that is in part of the QuickBooks, because we'll talk about paying our employees. You don't necessarily need to have a paid service. It could be on the standard payroll service, or of course, if you're gonna have them calculate the amount of amount that you're going to pay your employees, you have to also be able to print the paycheck. So in this case, B is a feature. Okay. Letter C says calculate and electronically remit federal payroll tax liabilities using the EFTPS. Okay. And
you would do that. I'm sorry. You would do that if you're the accountant. Is that kind of like saying that, like when you file your taxes and you e-file it? Is it saying that QuickBooks would e-file it for you?
yes, that's exactly what C is referring to. Yes. In this case, that is not available in the standard option. Unfortunately, you have to pay a higher service for you to file your taxes automatically. In this case, the very basic standard payroll services will not do this for you. You would have to manually file your form 941, 940, and 943, all right, including your 1090s, right? You have to be able to process that on your own. But you can use QuickBooks to help it a lot quicker. But again, that's why you pay a tax accountant to do the job for you. Okay? So in this case, you don't need to do any of this, right? You just pay the tax accountant and they'll do it for you. All right? So C is going to be not an option that is available in a standard payroll services. Okay? Number 11. QuickBooks uses payroll items to
D.
D as in David.
Yes.
Okay, 11, correct. D as in David is going to be all of the above, right? Yes, it is to accumulate payroll liabilities, right? We talked about the responsibility of collecting FICA, which is Social Security and Medicare. That's not your money. That belongs to, that's your responsibility to pay the government for that. So yes, that's what payroll items do. It keeps track of that. It even keeps track of different kinds of compensations, right? We saw hourly, we saw salary. They're not the same thing. You can use payroll items to separate them, right? And then letter C says define the relationship between the items that you put on your paychecks and on the chart of accounts. Yes, because again, you link your payroll items to those specific accounts. Good. All right, number 12. If you no longer want an employee to show in your select employees to pay list, what do you need to do? Okay, if an employee no longer works for you and you decide that you don't want to pay them anymore, what do you do?
C.
You need to enter in a release date through the employee's record. Yes. Inactivating them is not going to do much. It's just going to say that they're temporarily not working for you this period of time. So again, you can do that for a person who's on medical leave, right? Fraternal leave, whatever it is that they are, situation that they cannot work at that time being, you can inactivate them. But in this case, this person no longer works for you. So if you want to not let them show up on your payroll list, then all you have to do is just enter in a release date. Okay? Last 13 is going to be which of the following payroll options does not require you to sign up for a Intuit payroll service. Okay. Again, are you obligated to pay into a payroll service?
No, not if you do it manually.
Not if you do it manually, which is correct, right? If you do manual payroll, which again, I'll show you on Tuesday, the very difference, okay, between manual and actually using a payroll service. Okay, so in this case, A is correct. Okay, 14. Okay, to set up local taxes for employees that are not supported by QuickBooks.
D.
D, A or B. So in this case, you would choose the other tab, okay, under tax defaults, okay, and then B, you would either set up a new payroll item and select other taxes. So yes, again, because local taxes are subjective, okay, depending on where your business is, okay. So again, or if they live in a specific town, they may be subject to local taxes, okay. So in this case, you would have to create an other tax item, okay, in order for you to do that. All right, and that's the last question of the day. So if there are no extra questions in regards to chapter 10, once again,